Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we take all those detailed notes, your sources, your questions, and really boil them down into the essential knowledge you need.
Making sure you're perfectly informed on the topic at hand.
Exactly. Hope you had a decent week. Mine was, well, it was surprisingly complex. I was trying to organize my old comic books, you know.
Oh yeah? How'd that go?
It sounds simple, right? But getting it perfect, making the whole system feel seamless, the tiny details you have to track are just, wow, it made me think about hidden structures.
That's actually a really good lead-in. Complexity hidden under simplicity. My week was quieter, mostly trying to escape noise, ironically.
Seeking silence.
Yeah, which weirdly makes the idea of a deep, dark, maybe even echoing underground space sound kind of appealing right now.
Even if it's crawling with less than friendly inhabitants.
Nah, maybe. Depends on the noise level, I guess.
Well, perfect.
Yeah.
Because we are definitely leaving the sunlit world behind today. We're shifting gears, going from, everyday life into the deep, oppressive, and totally vital darkness of the capital wastelands underground.
We're heading down into the metro stations and the sewers of Fallout 3.
That's the plan. A proper deep dive into those secrets lurking below.
Yeah, and we're not just listing locations. We want to really get into how these tunnel systems work. They're not just background scenery.
No, definitely not. They're key gameplay elements, right? They drive the narrative forward, they set the mood.
Absolutely. They're the atmospheric heart in a lot of ways. And they're the game's, well, it's a circulatory system, like you said.
Yeah.
They connect everything, especially in downtown DC.
So our mission today is to unpack all of that. We're looking at how they're designed, the challenges they throw at you,
The tactical choices you have to make down there, the kind of loot you find.
and how they contribute to that overall feeling of, desperation and scale in the wasteland.
Right. The goal for you, listening, is to come away with a really solid understanding of pretty much every metro station and sewer system's role. What makes them tick, what makes them dangerous, and why they're so darn important to the whole Fallout 3 experience.
By the end, you'll get the hidden infrastructure of that world.
Exactly, that underlying network.
Okay, let's get into it. It's a huge topic, dark, claustrophobic, kind of like trying to make that perfect carbonara, maybe.
How so?
Well, it looks simple, but getting it right depends on all these little hidden steps, the heat, the cheese, the timing, navigating the wasteland successfully. It's all about managing that hidden network beneath your feet.
That's a good analogy, it really is.
All right, section 2, setting the stage, those hidden veins.
Right. The wasteland's hidden veins.
So when you first step out of Vault 101, the world seems massive, right? Open skies, ruined landmarks stretching out. It's overwhelming.
Yeah, that initial impression is one of vastness.
But then you quickly realize, especially when you try to get downtown, that the surface, it's not really navigable in large parts.
Exactly, the real map, the one that dictates how you actually move from A to B, especially in the dense city ruins, that's underground.
We were talking about this huge network of metro tunnels and the sewers, too. They aren't just optional dungeons you dip into.
No, they're fundamental. They're the solution Bethesda came up with for a destroyed city. Think about the sheer scale of DC's actual metro.
Right.
Trying to render all of downtown DC's surface, every collapsed building, every pile of rubble, making it all accessible. It's technically infeasible, or would have been then.
So the surface becomes these sort of islands, pockets you can explore.
Pretty much, yeah. Especially in the core downtown area. It's choked with debris, impassable ruins, heavy radiation zones. You just can't walk block by block like in a normal city.
Which forces you underground.
It funnels you. The metro tunnels are often literally the only way through. They're the connective tissue holding those surface pockets together.
It's clever, really. Avoids tons of loading screens while still giving you that feeling of a huge ruined city.
And it works because it feels logical, right? A subway system would likely survive better underground. But that necessity, the fact that you have to use them, that directly shapes the whole atmosphere down there.
Absolutely. The feeling is immediate. You go from the wide open, maybe irradiated but open surface,
into this intense, crushing pressure. Claustrophobia kicks in instantly.
the ceilings feel low, the corridors are tight, visibility drops to near zero sometimes. It's a stark contrast.
And your senses just go on high alert. The sound design is just masterful down there.
It's that silence, but it's not peaceful, it's heavy. Makes every little noise jump out.
That constant drip, drip, drip of water. Where's it coming from? Is it clean? Probably not.
Or that scuttling sound. But is
Yeah,
it just
well-
a rat or something worse? Your own footsteps echoing sound like thunder?
Yeah, every sound is potentially hostile. It puts you on edge constantly.
And visually, it's just relentless decay, 200 years of neglect shows.
Water everywhere, stagnant pools, sometimes irradiated, perfect hiding spots for certain things.
Mirelurks, yeah.
Rubble, exposed wires sparking maybe, collapsed ceilings. It feels unstable, like it could cave in more at any second.
It adds that physical threat on top of the creature threat.
Right.
It's not just scenery. It feels like the environment itself is dangerous.
Exactly. It feels old and broken.
So it paints this picture of a forgotten relic, right? Now it's just home to things that, like the dark and the damp. Which brings up a question about, well, normal people, wastelanders. We're saying these tunnels are often the only way through, but they're also incredibly dangerous. So do people actually use them for travel? Or are they just these terrifying death traps everyone avoids?
That's a key question. Based on what we see, the density of ghouls, raiders, setting up ambushes, they're definitely terrifying choke points.
Right.
Think about a regular wastelander, not the player character with, power armor and 100 stim packs. Would they choose to go down there?
Probably, only if they absolutely had to.
Exactly. Only if the surface route was demonstrably worse. Maybe blocked by a super mutant army or just lethally irradiated. We see some people living down there, sure, in makeshift settlements.
Like the family, maybe. Or underworld connecting to the metro.
Sort of, yeah, or just pockets of survivors. But transit, traveling through the tunnels, that's a massive risk. A calculated gamble few would take lightly unless forced.
But wait a second. If the danger underground is so immediate, so close quarters, ghouls jumping you, tight corners, wouldn't it make more sense for a wastelander to just, find a hazmat suit, pop a bunch of Rad-X, and stick to the surface? Avoid those ambushes altogether.
It's a fair point. Why trade ambush danger for radiation danger?
Yeah.
I think it comes down to a few things. One, resource cost. Constantly using Rad-X, maintaining a hazmat suit that's expensive, maybe unsustainable for the average person. Two, the type of danger on the surface. It's not just radiation, it's huge super mutant patrols, established raider fortresses with snipers, long exposed stretches. These can be resource drains too, requiring lots of ammo, maybe even impossible fights.
Right. Organized threats versus chaotic ones.
And crucially, distance and time. The tunnels, even though they feel labyrinthine, often represent a much, much shorter physical path through the really dense, blocked off parts of DC.
So it's a shortcut. A really, really dangerous shortcut.
Exactly. You're trading the risk of a potentially long, drawn-out fight or lethal radiation exposure on the surface.
For a known, concentrated burst of terror underground, a quick, intense fight against ghouls or mirrorlurks, maybe some raiders.
Precisely. It's a risk profile trade-off. Below ground, the danger is immediate, it's in your face, but potentially over faster and maybe requiring less ammo overall if you survive the initial shock.
Assuming you don't get overwhelmed.
Right. It's the devil you know, perhaps. The tunnels are terrifying, but they get you through. They're the price you pay for passage in the ruined city.
Paid for in adrenaline and maybe a few close calls.
Or more than a few.
Okay, that makes sense. And that whole risk assessment, it pivots the moment you step into the darkness, right? Because then you're reliant on one specific tool.
Your Pip-Boy light.
Yeah, the ultimate double-edged sword down there.
Absolutely. On the surface, maybe you flick it on at night, no big deal. Underground, it's life or death. But using it, that comes with a serious tactical cost.
Let's break that down. The tactical duality. First, the obvious pros. Why do you have to turn it on?
Well, first and foremost, just moving around. Some of those areas are literally pitch black. Not just dark, but zero visibility.
Right. Even with high perception, you can't see.
Exactly. So basic navigation, finding the right tunnel, spotting a doorway, seeing if the track ahead is collapsed, you need the light for that.
And spotting hazards. That's huge. Tripwires, pressure plates, mines.
Yeah, think about some of those raider-infested stations like Farragut West. They booby-trap everything. Walking around in the dark is suicide.
You just be stumbling into traps constantly.
And loot. So much essential stuff is hidden in dark corners, in lockers, on shelves, small ammo boxes, chems, maybe even valuable junk for crafting. You'd miss 90% of it without the light.
Okay, so indispensable for seeing, navigating, and surviving traps and finding goodies. Now, the cons. The big tactical downside.
Visibility works both ways. That green glow, it's basically a giant shoot me sign.
Yeah.
The moment you turn it on, forget stealth. Any enemy nearby, their perception mechanics basically lock on to that light source. It negates high sneak skills in many situations.
So you become this bright green beacon moving through the dark. You might see them, but they definitely see you coming.
Instantly, especially in those tight corridors. A ghoul lurking around a corner, a super mutant guarding a junction. The light announces your arrival long before you might want it to. Any chance of a stealthy first strike is pretty much gone.
Which leads to this really tense way of playing, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. Experienced players develop this habit, right? You pulse the light.
Sprint to a room, flick it on for a split second.
Yeah, get a snapshot of the layout, spot immediate threats, maybe see where the exit is.
Then flick it off immediately and try to move based on that mental image or sound cues.
Exactly. It's this constant back and forth, this calculation. Do I need to see you right now, or do I need to stay hidden? Sight versus survival.
And turning it off creates its own risks too. You're relying on hearing, but maybe a ghoul is creeping up silently.
Absolutely. Even if they haven't technically detected you, they might react to your movement sounds, and then suddenly they're right on top of you in the dark. Terrifying.
It connects directly to combat mechanics too, right? Like VATS.
Definitely. VATS is powerful, sure. The targeting system helps. But it still needs you to actually see the target, or at least be aware of its presence and general direction to initiate.
You can't target something in VATS if it's completely hidden in pitch blackness, even if it's close.
Right. So the Pip-Boy light gives you that split second of visual contact you need to lock on with VATS, especially against something fast, like a feral ghoul rushing you.
If you wait for it to emerge fully into like ambient light, it might already be chewing on your face.
Pretty much. So the light, despite the risk, actually enables effective VATS use in those initial moments of contact.
And just figuring out where to go. Those subway maps on the Pip-Boy aren't exactly clear.
Understatement. They're confusing messes sometimes. Twisting tunnels, multiple levels, maintenance passages. Trying to navigate that maze in total darkness using just the map. Good luck.
The light becomes essential just to find the right ladder or door the quest marker is pointing vaguely towards.
Yeah, it saves you from getting lost for half an hour in some dead end, probably irradiated side tunnel, burning through your Rad-X.
And psychologically, it's powerful. That little cone of green light, it's your entire world down there.
It really is just this small bubble of safety, or perceived safety, against this overwhelming, oppressive blackness all around you. It makes you feel incredibly isolated.
Alone under a dead city, with just a light that might also be betraying you.
That sums it up perfectly.
Okay, so atmosphere, navigation, light. It all sets the stage. But the real stars of the underground show are the things living down there.
The threats. Yeah, let's get into the enemies.
Yeah.
Because they're not just random spawns, they feel specifically chosen for these environments.
Definitely curated for maximum impact in tight spaces.
We've got, I'd say, 3 main types that really define the underground experience.
Starting with number 1, the poster child of the Metro.
Feral ghouls. Absolutely. They are the underground in many ways.
Why do they thrive so well down there?
2 big reasons. One, the radiation, obviously. Lots of leaks, irradiated water pools. It's their natural habitat. Sometimes they even heal in it.
Right, they're creatures of the atom's glow, basically.
And 2, their whole attack style is built for tunnels. They rely on numbers and that frantic lunging melee attack.
Which is devastating in a narrow corridor.
Exactly. The maze-like nature, the blind corners, the little side rooms and collapsed train cars. Perfect ambush territory for ghouls. They swarm you, and that high-damage, rapid attack sequence is almost impossible to dodge when you have nowhere to move.
On the surface, you can backpedal, use obstacles, keep your distance.
Down there, you're trapped. The moment they close that gap, it's just a desperate scramble. You can't easily flank them. You can't easily retreat without running into more of them or a wall.
Yeah, I remember places like DuPont Circle Metro. You open a door, and suddenly there are 4 or 5 pouring out of the darkness or climbing out of rubble.
And the fight becomes a pure bottleneck. Can you dish out enough damage fast enough before they overwhelm you? That's the whole encounter.
Okay, ghouls are the common terror. What's next? Often found where it's wet.
Mirelurks. Less common than ghouls, maybe more concentrated in the sewer systems or the really flooded metro sections, but they bring a totally different challenge.
They're tough, like physically tough.
They're an armor check, essentially. Their affinity for water means, first, you often don't see them until you're wading through murky, maybe slowing water.
Losing your mobility advantage right away.
Exactly. And second, that heavy shell means your standard pipe pistol or 10mm isn't going to cut it easily. They soak up bullets unless you hit weak spots.
Which requires precision aiming.
While you're probably panicked, in the dark, maybe getting knocked around by their claw attacks in knee-deep water, it's tough.
Yeah, you really need something with stopping power or aim for the face, which is a small target.
Yeah.
They punish you for not having the right ammo or weapon for close, armored targets.
Absolutely. A real test of your loadout's punch.
Okay, ghouls,
Eh,
mirror lurks, and the third main category. Sometimes you run into bigger problems.
super mutants. Now, they're not everywhere underground like ghouls are. Their presence usually means something significant.
Like you're getting close to a major surface location they control.
Exactly. Or you're in a key strategic tunnel, maybe one leading towards a big landmark like the Capitol building or GNR. Finding super mutants underground is usually a sign that this tunnel matters.
And sticking a giant super mutant in a narrow subway tunnel? That changes things dramatically.
Oh, completely. On the surface, they're dangerous but manageable with space. Down here, their size alone blocks corridors. And if they're carrying heavy weapons...
Missile launchers, miniguns, in a tunnel.
Yeah, it turns into a terrifying boss fight almost. There's minimal cover, they can just charge you down, and their splash damage weapons become incredibly deadly with nowhere for the blast to dissipate. Even using your own grenades gets risky.
So the environment itself makes them exponentially more dangerous.
It absolutely does. Which brings us to the idea of the tunnels as arenas. The space itself dictates the fight.
Right. You mentioned the lack of flanking. You're usually forced into these head-on collisions.
Pretty much. Enemies can often flank you, popping out of vents, side passages you didn't clear, but you rarely have the room to maneuver around them. It forces a very direct, often brutal style of combat.
You just have to stand your ground and trade blows, basically. Tank the damage.
Which in turn affects what skills and perks are actually useful down there. A lot of the long-range surface tactics. Useless.
Like the sniper perk. Good luck finding a shot over 20 feet.
Exactly. Commando for automatic rifles at range? Not really applicable. But other perks suddenly become much more valuable.
Such as?
Well, things that boost close quarters damage or survivability, maybe perks related to shotguns or even melee and unarmed if you're built for it.
Iron Fist, maybe? Since you get forced into melee range so often?
Could be, yeah. Or something like Bloody Mess, just maximizing damage per shot because you need to end fights quickly before you're overwhelmed. It really shifts the focus of your special build towards maybe higher strength for carry weight and melee, and definitely high endurance to soak up that unavoidable damage.
And you mentioned grenades earlier. The confined space makes them super effective, right?
Incredibly effective. A single, well-placed frag grenade into a pack of ghouls coming down a tunnel. It's devastatingly efficient, much more so than tossing one out in the open wasteland. The blast radius is maximized.
Does the whole combat experience changes? It's more intense, more immediate.
More tense, definitely. It demands faster reflexes, better spatial awareness of those side passages, and a different loadout than you might use topside. It's a unique, high-stakes kind of fighting.
Which is probably why those encounters stick in your memory. They're stressful.
They really are. That's what makes the tunnels more than just corridors. They're gauntlets.
Okay, so they're dangerous, claustrophobic, full of things that want to eat you. Why on earth do we keep going down there?
The million-cap question. The answer is simple. Resources. Survival.
The labyrinth of opportunity, as our notes say.
Exactly. The sheer necessity of what you find down there outweighs the risk most of the time. It's fundamental to the game's resource loop.
We need to dig into that. What kind of specific loot makes it worthwhile? Not just ammo and chems.
Right. Let's categorize. First, you have the big ticket items. Unique weapons, sometimes pieces of power armor, valuable schematics for crafting.
Things you won't find just lying around on the surface.
Exactly. And they're almost always hidden. Behind tough locks, complex terminals you need high science for, or tucked away in some collapsing maintenance tunnel that's hard to even spot.
Like maybe the terrible shotgun, or parts for the T-51B if you know where to look deep underground.
Precisely. Stuff that's preserved because it's so hard and dangerous to reach. Only a determined wanderer would find them.
Okay, so rare gear, what else?
High-value components. Stuff for crafting, yes, but also just stuff worth a lot of caps. Pre-war resources that survived better underground.
Sensor modules, scrap metal, conductors.
And especially pre-war money. You find stacks of it sometimes in old offices or safes down there. Worthless as currency itself, but merchants pay good caps for it.
Ah, right. It's a direct cash injection, basically. Found in bulk underground.
Yeah, much more concentrated than finding stray bills blowing around the surface. It fuels your ability to buy better gear or repair existing stuff.
But even more crucial than uniques or cash. The daily survival stuff, right?
Absolutely vital. The consumables. Think about it. The tunnels are full of radiation. The fights drain your health fast, and you're burning through ammo in those close encounters.
So the tunnels must replenish those things.
And they do. You find significant caches of ammunition, often for common calibers you're using down there. You find lots of stim packs, often in first aid boxes that are still intact. And crucially, Rad-X and Radaway.
Gotta have Radaway down there.
You practically swim in radiation sometimes. Finding a stash of Radaway feels like striking gold. The underground provides the very medicine you need to survive its own hazards.
And to recover after you emerge back to the surface.
Exactly. It sustains the entire loop. You endure the darkness and danger, and your reward is the means to continue surviving both down there and back topside.
So the grim atmosphere and the reward are directly linked. The reward feels earned because the journey was so rough.
Precisely. Cracking a safe in some flooded basement and finding 10 stim packs feels like a major victory because you know how badly you'll need them.
Which brings us back to that core decision loop, the risk versus reward calculation.
Every time you approach a metro entrance, you're subconsciously weighing it. Am I low on ammo? Need stims? Is the potential loot in this particular tunnel worth the rads? The ammo I'll spend clearing it? The risk of getting cornered by ghouls?
And given the overall scarcity of the wasteland, the answer is usually yes.
For a player trying to stay well equipped, almost always yes. Especially if you're using more resource-intensive weapons like missile launchers or energy weapons on the surface. Where do you reliably restock cells or missiles? Often underground caches.
The surface consumes resources, the underground replenishes them.
That's the core loop. The tunnels are mandatory pit stops for resource management. You brave the intimate danger below to gather the supplies needed to face the larger scale dangers above.
It's a push-pull. You need the tunnels to afford surviving the surface.
Without that constant influx of ammo, meds, and components from the underground, the surface wasteland would become unsustainable very quickly for most playstyles. The economy would just collapse.
So they're not just pathways, they're resource veins too.
Absolutely. Physical veins and economic veins.
Okay, we've covered the physical space, the atmosphere, the threats, the rewards. Now let's connect it all to the bigger picture, the quests and the narrative.
Right, because these tunnels aren't just random dungeons. They're deeply woven into the main story and many side quests.
They often feel like they're the main path forward, narratively speaking.
They frequently function as narrative bottlenecks. The game deliberately routes you through specific, often dangerous metro stations or sewer sections to reach key story locations or characters.
It's like getting to River City early on. You pretty much have to brave the tunnels, or reaching GNR Plaza.
Or the final legs of the main quest using the presidential metro. These aren't optional routes, they're mandatory passages.
And the game uses the difficulty of these passages as a kind of gate.
Exactly. It tests your skills. Can you handle confined combat? Can you manage your resources in the dark? Can you navigate this hostile environment? If you can pass the test, then you get to advance the plot.
It adds weight to reaching those destinations. You feel like you earned it.
It enhances that sense of a difficult journey, of isolation. You're not just fast traveling, you're physically burrowing through the guts of a dead city, fighting tooth and nail to get where you need to go.
That feeling of descent and emergence is powerful. Going deep underground, facing the darkness, then finally coming out near your objective. It makes locations like the Jefferson Memorial or the Citadel feel more significant.
It gives the world a genuine sense of verticality, of layered depth. It's not just a flat map with obstacles, it's a three-dimensional ruin you have to navigate. Miles across, but also miles down and up.
Which ties into how players actually feel about these areas. The public perception, if you will, of the metro system design.
Yeah, that's a fascinating aspect. Because it wasn't universally loved at first, was it?
No, I remember the debates. Some players found them really tedious.
Right. The argument was they felt repetitive, like endless corridors of gray concrete and rubble, just a slog to get through. Loading screens disguised as dungeons was a common complaint.
How do you counter that? Because let's be honest, some sections do feel very similar.
Well, I think the defense, and what became the more accepted view over time, is that the repetition is actually part of the point. It's realistic.
How so?
Real-world subway systems are repetitive by design. Long stretches of similar-looking tunnels, stations with recurring architectural elements. Bethesda leaned into that. They didn't try to make every single tunnel section wildly unique.
Because that wouldn't feel like a real vast metro network.
Exactly. The repetition, the sheer scale of it, even if some assets are reused, it conveys the reality of this massive piece of infrastructure surviving underground. It grounds the game world.
It makes the solution, using the metro to navigate the impassable surface, feel logical and necessary within the game's world.
Precisely. They turned a potential technical limitation or design challenge into a core feature that defines the Capital Wasteland's geography and feel.
And that's what elevates the game, isn't it? That interconnectedness, that depth. It's often cited as something that really set Fallout 3 apart.
Absolutely. It showed that the urban ruin wasn't just wallpaper. It actively shaped everything: movement, combat, survival. You weren't just walking past the ruins, you were forced to engage with the city's decaying skeleton, its infrastructure, to survive.
You had to use the wreck itself to navigate the wreck.
Beautifully put. That extensive, complex, sometimes frustrating, but ultimately essential underground network. It's arguably one of the most successful pieces of environmental storytelling in the game. It makes you feel the post-apocalypse on a visceral, physical level.
That structural realism is the key. It makes DC feel huge, not just wide, but deep. A major achievement.
Couldn't agree more.
All right. Wow, we've covered a lot of dark, dangerous ground. Let's try and bring it all together. Time for the recap.
Okay. Synthesizing the deep dive.
So, the metro and sewer systems in Fallout 3, they're defined by what? 4 main things.
I think so. First, that inescapable atmosphere. Claustrophobic, tense, driven by that incredible sound design of decay and unseen threats.
Second, the unique combat. It forces you into close quarters, makes long-range builds less viable, and demands spatial awareness and the right tools for tight spaces.
Third, the Pip-Boy light. Absolutely essential for seeing, but a huge tactical liability, forcing that constant risk-reward calculation with visibility versus stealth.
And fourth, their critical role in the economy and navigation. They're the main routes through DC, and they're the primary source for the ammo, meds, and resources you need to keep going, both underground and on the surface.
Yeah, they're not optional extras. They are the lifeblood, the terrifying, necessary transit system of the Capital Wasteland. They define the challenge of moving through that world.
Without them, Fallout 3's DC would feel, well, flat. Less dangerous. Less real somehow. The underground is where you're truly tested.
It's the proving ground, absolutely.
Okay, so as we metaphorically climb out of the tunnels and back into the irradiated sunlight, or maybe just back into our relatively less dangerous homes,
Hopefully less dangerous.
we want to leave you with one final thought, something to chew on.
We've spent all this time talking about how these ruined tunnels are the hidden essential infrastructure for survival in that world. The systems people rely on but maybe don't always see or think about.
The pathways, the resource nodes.
Right. So the question for you is, if the wasteland needs its crumbling subways, what are the necessary hidden tunnels in our world?
The complex systems we rely on every day but maybe take for granted.
Yeah. Think about supply chains that bring your food, the unseen data networks connecting us, the power grids, the maintenance crews working behind the scenes, all that hidden infrastructure that keeps our complex lives moving.
What systems, if they failed, would force us into our own kind of darkness, scrambling to survive?
It's just something to consider. What hidden complexities underpin our own reality?
Mull that over as you go about your week. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.